are going to go ahead and do is we are going to go ahead and open our first item in this class. What you need to do is you need to go back to Canvas. And this is an important skill to learn because many of you don't know how to do it. Go ahead and go to the day by day. Now, we are going to be opening and practicing the notes for this class. Okay? Everything we have in this class is Google Drive stuff. If you notice where it says Notes for Class, go ahead and click on that link. Now, when you open it, the first thing you're going to say is, I can't edit this document. Then you do that annoying thing where you go and click the top right-hand corner and you press share, which you're not going to do because it's annoying. Okay? If you do that, I get about 70 emails that say, can I have access? Here's what you're going to do instead. You're going to click on the top left where it says File. And there's only 8 of you here, so hopefully all of you are getting here. You're going to go ahead and press Make a Copy. You can rename this. Most people don't. Most people just press Enter. Doesn't really matter. Once you press Enter, you are now able to edit this document. Okay? You know how I'd give you a couple of seconds. Make sure you're able to edit. Everything, by the way, will save to your Granite SD drive that is available off-site as well. So if you want to work on stuff outside of class, you don't need a school Chromebook. You can access it anywhere, it's on your phone, anything like that. Is there anybody who is not able to do this? Okay, what error is coming up? Oh, yeah, it's because so the Wi-Fi here is not that great. So sometimes it just takes a second, and it should load. Everybody else doing okay? All right, so you should be able to edit this document now. Make sure go ahead and click like under Mercator projection. You can go ahead and edit that. You can go ahead and type stuff in, put random stuff in, things like that. Okay? Did it load eventually? Okay, perfect. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to just introduce a few things. Our activity is going to be next class period, and I was kind of debating whether or not we want to do it, start it now or later. I'm going to push it back to next class because if there's anybody absent today, then we can go ahead and have them do it next class. Okay? So, if by the way you are ever gone, if you notice where it says PowerPoint, or some students in class like to have it open, so if you want to click the link and have it open so that you can copy and paste notes, I don't even care. If you feel like you want to open this up, and you're like, I don't want to type it, I'm just going to copy and paste it, go ahead and do that. That's why it's on Google Drive, okay? Do whatever you need to do to be able to make it easier. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start, and we're going to talk about this and go through this. As we go, you're going to be taking notes as we go. This is going to be a good practice. We'll do our activity next class, again, because if anybody's gone this class, I don't want to take 20 minutes trying to explain the activity. Does that make sense? Okay. And we have about 10 minutes, so we'll just go ahead and introduce this stuff. We do leave here at 10:33. I don't know if you guys know the schedule. It's kind of weird. So we are almost out of class. We only have about 14 minutes left. Okay? So again, as we go through this, go ahead and make copies and different things like that as we go through. I know it's the first day. We were going to do an activity, but I wasn't expecting the videos to take so long. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and let's start about maps. So the first thing we're going to learn in this class is how to read a map. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I've read maps, I've seen maps and things like that before. The problem is that a lot of our maps are not necessarily accurate, so we have to kind of talk about those accuracies a little bit. And another thing as well, a lot of you guys don't have maps, all right? So when you guys, for example, go on a road trip, do you pull out a giant map and read it and say, okay, you're going to turn left here? Do you do that? No, what do you do instead? Put it in your phone and you go, right? So a lot of people don't read maps, and it can actually become a huge issue as well, especially if you get lost or if you've ever been at a place where the maps aren't there. We're also not going to focus so much on like road maps, but really maps that matter for this class. This class, we don't want to focus on, let's talk about what the geography of Africa is like. Let's talk about what a mountain is. We're not going to focus on that. Instead, we're going to really look at how geography impacts humans on the earth and how it impacts you guys. So who has seen the map style that's on the board, this like flat map thing? Who's seen this before? If you haven't, here's a map right here that looks exactly like it, okay? This is what is called the Mercator projection. So on your notes, it says like, what is the Mercator projection or different things like that. This is the #1 most common map projection. Almost all maps that you're going to see are going to be this style of map. But there's a massive, massive problem. All right? And I think that's the second question on your notes. I'm going to type your notes out so you can be able to take them. So the massive problem in this, and that's, I believe, your second question, it distorts the size and the shape of objects. So let me give you an example. Anybody know what country that is? This giant...
That's Greenland.
That's Greenland, because you guys have all heard the Greenland is actually ice and the Iceland is actually green. They did that on purpose because they didn't want people to go to Iceland because they wanted to keep it for themselves, so they named it a name that sounded really unattractive. And it's worked actually very successfully. So anyway, so this is Greenland. Do you guys see how huge it is? And do you guys see how it's like the same size as South America? The actual size of Greenland is only about this big. Like the very, 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 very top of it. Okay? And yet this map is making it seem giant. Do you guys see Europe? You guys know where Europe is? Okay, gosh, please do. Okay? So this is Europe. It's about the same size as South America, correct? South America is about 5 times larger than Europe. So why is it that it's the same size? In fact, if you took all of Europe, it would fit in about the size of Brazil. Okay? So why is it then that this map says that? Well, that's the problem. This map, our Earth is circular, right? It's a big sphere. Laying it flat like this is a problem. Did you guys ever do that fun activity in geography where they took like an orange and they made... Did you guys ever do that? That was like something that we did. They would take an orange... Gosh, it's the first day. We can't already be bummed about this class. Okay, so anyway, so what happens is that if you take a cylindrical object, you can't just lay it flat and it becomes a huge issue. So people start to assume sizes and locations that are accurate. So a lot of people, when they think of this map, they'll see like Germany, which is right about here, and they'll say, oh, that's where Germany is. Germany is actually more over here. And the Atlantic Ocean is actually larger. But it's so distorted that we can't tell the difference between the two. So they decided to make this next one. So this is the Robinson version. And the Robinson version decided to make it more like a sphere. So it's like this giant, like circular thing, right? It imagines the world as an ellipse. So just fun fact, that's your next one. See, we're practicing typing, putting in notes, things like that. And this was a better accurate representation. Notice, do you guys see what happened to the size up here? And then how it's super big down here, and then notice Europe got smaller and things like that. So it was a bit more accurate, but it was still not the most accurate out of everything. And this is probably the problem with maps. We're constantly trying to debate which map is better. See, everybody get that down? You just have to put something along the lines of, it's an ellipse, it's more accurate. Everybody able to figure out how to type and stuff like that? Okay, cool. And if I go too fast, just totally let me know. So while this was a good idea, it was still a problem. It was still distorting things, it was still causing problems, and it's still not the best version of how we can be able to make a map. So instead, we have this new version of a map. Now, this is what is called the Peters projection map. And the Peters projection map attempts to be able to make it the most accurate representation in terms of size. Notice, for example, that now we have Greenland is barely on the map whatsoever. South America is giant, especially compared to up to here. Africa, which is one of the largest continents, is humongous. And notice how itty-bitty Europe is. Okay? Most people take the Peters map as the most accurate map representation possible. So the advantage of the Peters map in comparison to all the other maps is it attempts to be able to make everything equal. And it makes everything into the correct size. Now the Peters map is really new, so if you guys haven't seen it before, that's totally okay. Part of the reason also why the Peters map was created and why it's a little bit more preferential is because of a social justice idea. Part of the reason why Africa and South America are portrayed as so small, even though they're giant, was because the people who originally made the maps were Europeans. Now remember, we know, you guys have learned a little bit about like Africa and how they were enslaved and how they were taken over. Did you guys know that a little bit before? South America was the same way. If you learned about how people came over and they basically, what they're called the conquistadors. Remember smallpox? You guys have heard all that about how it killed everybody. If you're a European and you defeated these two countries, would you want them to seem bigger than you? No, because that means they're more important, right? You wouldn't want Africa in particular to be that bigger one, so you make it purposely smaller. It's kind of an imperialism idea. So instead, the Peters projection attempts to be able to fix that, okay? So in comparison between the two, so this was our original one that we looked at before. This is that Peters map. Do you guys see all the differences? Look at how small itty-bitty Antarctica is especially, okay? All of that is because of these changes between the two different map projections. Okay? Now here's another thing as well. I want you to think in your head about these two maps. Notice this one has America in the middle, and this one has America on the side. I want you to think in your head, let's make this number 1, number 2. Go ahead and think in your head which one you've seen more often. So look at it, number 1. Number 2, America on the left, America in the center. Put a finger up of which one you've seen more often. Okay, so the ones. So that is actually different than about 5 years ago. When I first started teaching this class, everybody said this one. Okay? And why? Because America's in the middle. Why do you think American textbooks would have wanted America in the middle? Because we're the most important, right? All these other countries don't matter. We matter. So we were the most important. So when I grew up, this was the map that I was taught. America is the center of the world. Now there's a problem though. What happens to Asia? It's cut in half. So what would happen is that we would look at this map and people would think Russia is far away from Europe. Is that true? No, part of Russia is in Europe. But we were taught this map. So do you guys see how maps actually can change perceptions about people's thoughts? Basically, the people who make the maps make what we perceive as the world. Okay? Now, we are going to